Hello, I'm Adam and I'm here today to talk to you about politics, specifically the politics of our vocabulary. And I titled the video, Everything You Know About Politics is Wrong. And the reason I titled it that is because I want to talk about the historical meaning of the terms that we use and show that in most cases is the complete opposite of their historical meaning. And this not only confuses our vocabulary, it confuses the thinking of most people, which is the whole point of corrupting the vocabulary. This is very deliberate political attempt for the political left to disassociate themselves from socialism and to associate themselves with the founding fathers, and to also likewise associate American conservatism with fascism. And so that's why they corrupt these terms. So I want to just go over the history of some of these terms and show what they actually mean in their historical context. And I also wrote The Big Lie, again, because this is a deliberate lie by the political left in the post-World War II era, again, to associate American conservatism with fascism, which, of course, it has nothing to do with fascism. It's the total opposite. In the interwar years, fascism was well understood to be a socialist movement. The fascists themselves said this openly over and over again, and it was well understood by everybody in the interwar years. But after World War II, again, the political left, in one of the great escape tricks of history, somehow associated with American conservatism. That's why when you hear the term right wing, you always hear American conservatives called right wing, and people go, oh, well, isn't that what the Nazis were? Weren't the Nazis right wing? So therefore, that guy's right wing, maybe he's a Nazi, maybe he's a secret Nazi, or kind of a quasi-Nazi, or something like that. We better watch out. Whereas the socialists are seen as liberals, they're associated with the founding fathers, which is equally ridiculous. But again, this is the mindset most people are forced to try and understand politics through, which is why most people are hopelessly confused. So again, a couple of terms, left wing and right wing. These terms go back to the French Parliament, and they refer to what side of the Parliament you sat on. Actually, they go back a long, long ways back to the era of monarchies. And they don't really, the original terms, left and right wing, don't really apply to modern politics, because again, they dealt with monarchists and people who were anti-monarchist or of the French Revolution. But in more modern times, they came to associate right wing with socialists, big government, anti-capitalist, sort of nationalist or racist socialist, depending on the country. They tended to sit on the right of the parliament, whereas the left-wing socialists were the classical class-based socialism of communism and Marxism. So depending on what kind of big government socialist you were, that showed where you sat in the parliament. Whereas the term liberal doesn't fall into the left or right-wing paradigm at all. Liberals, being classic liberals, were free markets, laissez-faire capitalism, individualism, small government, gun rights, low taxes. These were the we've now come to call that era of the founding fathers in the 1800s classic liberalism, which is the total opposite of what we now call liberalism, which is socialism. Again, this is done deliberately to associate the socialists today with somehow the founding fathers. And you hear, oh, Obama is a very liberal, where he's not liberal at all in the historical content. He's the total opposite. Or Ted Kennedy, he's dead now, but you know, he was a liberal. He was a big socialist, big government, high taxes, top-down government, or the members of the Supreme Court on the political left who want top-down government power, socialism, a dismantling of the Constitution. They're called liberals, which is ridiculous. It's laughable. The founding fathers would be spinning in their graves to hear these terms used, these people as liberals. Again, liberal was free market laissez-faire capitalists, if we're going to be historically accurate, when we use this term, we say, well, who are the liberals today? It would be people like Rush Limbaugh would be a liberal, or Ron Paul would be a liberal. Very conservative Republicans would be liberals. So we'd say, wow, that Rush Limbaugh, he's really liberal. And who would be right-wing? Well, Obama would be right-wing. He's a big government, anti-capitalist, redistributionist. It actually is racist agenda. His racist government justice department is history belonging to the very racist Reverend Wright's church, funding Reverend Wright for 20 years and all that. But even if you don't believe that, a lot of people say, oh, Obama's not racist. That was a big mistake. He didn't know about Reverend Wright. And he's a socialist, but more of the class-based socialism. Marxism or communist. But a lot of people, again, want to pretend or fool themselves into thinking Obama's just maybe, to be very kind and generous, just a social democrat. But again, he's not a liberal in the historical sense. He'd be left or right, depending on your thoughts on that. But not a liberal in the historical sense. He'd be either right-wing or left-wing. He'd be a socialist. Same with Nancy Pelosi, Harry Reid, like I said, Ted Kennedy, Jesse Jackson, all these people, the four left-wing members of the Supreme Court. They are not liberals in any stretch. So the terms are completely reversed. And again, this is very deliberate because in politics, like a lot of things, when you're selling your ideas or selling your candidacy, you want to market it. If you say, hey, I'm a socialist, I'm left-wing, or I'm a right-wing socialist, people, it has negative connotations. So you want to, the American left, the universities and the media started calling socialists liberals to associate them with the founding fathers, Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, Ben Franklin, George Washington, which is laughable, though the founding fathers would be disgusted by that. And it's very dishonest, and it's deliberate. Again, it's an Orwellian attempt to confuse people, and it has succeeded. And likewise, again, right-wing, when you say Rush Limbaugh's right-wing, oh, it sounds very scary. It sounds like he's a fascist, or, Ron Paul, or just pick out any Sarah Palin, she's right-wing. Oh, watch out, she's a fascist. But again, the fascists were socialists. So I just wanted to cover what I call the big lie and show that this affects not just the terminology, but it confuses people so that they can't have a intelligent conversation because they don't know what they're talking about. They confuse the terms and it affects their thinking. And I wanted to share some of this history so you wouldn't be affected by this. And even if you use the terms in passing just to cut corners, as long as you understand that these terms, right and left, as it applies in American politics, has nothing to do with the historical origins of the terms, and don't be fooled into buying into some of the connotations of what it might mean. And when you can, educate people because they really need it. So I appreciate you watching very much, and you have a great day.